What's up, guys? Pedro here with Syzygy Coffee. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, and I do want to apologize first and foremost. But I do have a bunch of videos that I have planned for you guys in the coming weeks and months. So stay tuned for those. Today's video is going to be based on what goes inside each and every single bag of Syzygy Coffee. So um, this is essentially what you get, right? Like this. It's at a beautiful box, and it's great. But maybe you're thinking, okay, what's the big deal with specialty coffee and Syzygy Coffee? Um, what I want to show you guys is the entire process between selecting a green bean and ending up in the bag of Syzygy, because there's a lot of work that goes behind it. And the idea with this video is to be as transparent as possible, nothing to hide. I want to show you guys what we do, the hard work that goes behind each bag of Syzygy to ensure that you guys get the best quality, fresh coffee, freshest coffee available. And hopefully you guys will understand the concept of specialty coffee and where we differ from other coffee roasters out there. So stay tuned. So in this table, you'll see every single piece of equipment that we use to make sure each and every single bag of Syzygy Coffee is up to our standards. Nothing is hidden. We don't do anything extra. I want to say that I think every single thing, every single piece of equipment that we use is on this table, except maybe the coffee bag sealer, and maybe that's it, and the kettle. But anyways, again, going back to the idea of being transparent and showing you guys a behind the scenes here at Syzygy Coffee. Now we're here at home, and the idea is to be able to showcase the whole process. And let's not make this video unnecessarily long. Where do we start? Green coffee. Where do we get the green coffee? Green coffee, we get it from coffee farmers or coffee estates. We try our best to work directly with coffee farms so that we don't have to pay a middleman who grabs a little bit of profit and then they shift part of that cost to us or whatever. No, we want to work directly with coffee farmers to give them the money directly. So we try our best to do that. It's hard, but it's definitely worth it, because at the end of the day, you guys are getting a higher quality coffee for cheaper. Now, once we contact them because we like what we see in their social media or their website or word of mouth or references or whatever, we ask for them, hey, can you send us some samples of your coffees A, B, and C? Sure, what's your address? They'll send us those samples. With specialty coffee, they'll generally send 200 grams for each sample. But generally speaking, you are looking to get 350 grams of coffee samples. With specialty coffee, you get a little bit less because it's a more expensive product. But each and every single part of the test is contingent on the fact that you have 350 grams. So if you only get 200 grams like we do, because everything is specialty, we just have to use a little bit of math and do the equivalent of doing 350 grams. Anyways, where do we start? We can start off with the coffee sieves. So these right here are coffee sieves. They go from bigger holes to smaller holes. And what this means is we're looking to see and get a uniform size for that coffee sample. What do I mean by this? We want to roast coffee that is essentially the same size. Every single bean, very close, or 95% of the beans should be around the same size, because we want consistency when they are roasting. Pretty straightforward. A very small coffee bean is going to roast faster than a large bean. So if you want this large bean to be medium light roast or medium roast, that smaller bean is all going to be burnt, right? So what we want to do is make sure that the coffee samples are, we want to make sure that the coffee sample we get has a certain size once we place a larger order. The coffee sample itself is never going to be sifted through a sifter for size. So that's on us to do that, the little bit of work. How it works is we put this lid here with the C, we're using a crew coffee sifter or coffee sieve. We add some green coffee on top. We shake it, and I'm going to try to make this in a single shot, so I may go back and forth and make some mistakes, but I want to give you guys a true raw look at what goes on here with Syzygy. We shake it for a bit, a minute and a half. What happens is that some of the coffee stays on top because they're too big to go in through these holes, and some of them go to the bottom. The ones that that stay on the top, we make a note of them depending on how much this weighs out of the 350 grams. And then we have a bunch left here. And then we just start making a smaller sieve. So this is a big one. We go to a smaller sieve and just repeat the process over and over until we get the exact percentage from that coffee sample for that size. Now, just to simplify things, I know we have a bunch of sieves here. Let's just say it's 5 sizes for the sake of the argument and making things a little bit simpler. Let's say that sizes 2 and 3 make up 80% of the coffee sample. And what we do is, if we like that coffee, we go to the coffee farm and say, hey guys, send us a whole sack for this coffee sample that you sent us, named coffee A. Send us a whole sack sizes between 2 and 3, because we want to make sure, just going back to it, that when we roast it, it's very, very uniform. Now, that's one of the steps. Another thing that we do here is we put on our safety UV glasses, and using this UV light, maybe you can see it on the camera, we turn the lights off. I know this a bit bright here. We turn the lights off and we analyze the coffee with the UV light. UV light will cause any molding to interact and turn fluorescent. I'll show you guys some pictures here in a minute. We do this because if there's any sort of fluorescent reaction to the UV light, that means that that green coffee is moldy or has defects that you should not be consuming. Some would argue that once you roast it, you're pretty much burning all of that out. That's not true. I mean, you're still consuming that. Every time we receive a coffee sample that is fluorescent, we immediately throw it away. That's why it's one of the first steps that we take. It's just taking a look at that UV light and how it'll interact. So no particular order, but UV light, coffee sieves. Another thing that we use is this little, is it a beaker? I don't remember. If I'm going to search the name for it and I'll put it down here. But we use this to measure the density of the coffee before roasting and after roasting. We do this because we want to know how much mass has been lost during the roasting process. With a light roast, which is what we aim for, light medium roast, we should be losing between 14 to 16%. And we make sure we meet that threshold by measuring before and after. So we grab the green coffee. I'm not going to do it here because I'm going to make a mess. We place it into this little thing. We weigh how much out of the 100 milliliters or 100 grams here, how much that weighs. We roast it, and then once it comes out from the roaster, we measure again 100 milliliters and how much it weighs, and the math should add up to around a 14 to 16% loss in mass because of the water that's being evaporated during that roasting process. Speaking of water, next step, we use this guy. I forgot the name. I know the brand is Agatronics Coffee Tester. I'll put the name here at the bottom. But what we do with this is we take off the lid, and inside we place the green coffee all the way to the top until it's flat on the top. We put the lid back on like this, and I'm just gonna turn it on and press test. What it's doing is testing the moisture content in that green coffee sample. Why is it important? Because, and I'm gonna look at my notes here just to make sure I have it right. With washed, a washed processed coffee, you're looking at it to be between 10 and 12% humidity. Whereas with a natural process, you're looking at it to be between an 8 and 12.5% humidity. And these are standards set by the Specialty Coffee Association. So essentially, if it's not between that range, it is not specialty coffee. We test each one of the samples 3 times, and the average is what we use, okay? So another step, taking the moisture content. If it meets that moisture criteria, then we proceed to the next step, which is roasting the coffee. Pretty straightforward. This is an Aelio R2 or R1 V2. Okay, so Aelio Bullet R1 V2. It is an amazing roaster. It does not use gas. It is electric and works through induction. It is an amazing piece of equipment, and very, very powerful, very, very high-end and high-tech. That's for another video, but how this works is inside this drum, imagine there's a smaller drum like this one that's spinning and it's heating up. Here on the front, you'll see what temperature we're at. And once it hits the temperature that we want to roast the coffee in, we place the green coffee inside. It'll roast for maybe 9 to 10 minutes. We'll be able to see here on the little window how it is looking. This is a little LED light that helps us look inside and get a real reading of the color. Once it is roasted and we hear that first crack, we open it up. This fan turns on, starts cooling the coffee. We use this little thing to spin it around, make that process a little bit faster. And once we have that set, we'll leave it, we'll bag it and save it and leave it for a few days for consumption and testing it out. I did forget one very important, now that I'm thinking of it, very important part of this process is the physical analysis of the green coffee. It's actually maybe one of the most important ones. I forgot about it because it's not a physical item in the table, but there's something called the coffee defects. With specialty coffee in the 350 gram standard, specialty coffee only allows for a certain number of defects, what we call a primary defects or secondary defects. So I'm going to show you guys an image of the types of defects that we have. So for example, a category 1 type of defects, you have full black, full sour, dried cherry pod, fungus damage, foreign matter, severe insect damage. For category 2, partial black, partial sour, parchment, odor, immature, unripe, withered shell, broken chipped cut, whole husk, and slight insect damage. So with these coffee defects, you have to meet a certain threshold in terms for it. In order for it to be a specialty coffee, you can't meet a certain threshold. So I believe if it's a single category 1 defect, it is no longer specialty coffee. So we analyze the coffee physically and we start making notes out of that 350 grams. We start making notes. Oh yeah, this one has an insect damage. This one is half sour, so on and so forth. And if it passes that test, which is very, very important, then we start the whole roasting process that we mentioned earlier. But yeah, it is a very important step. Perhaps the most important is that physical analysis of the green coffee. I'll show you some pictures of what is a healthy looking green coffee versus an unhealthy looking coffee. The thing is, with non-specialty coffee, once you roast it, it's pretty much impossible to tell if a coffee is had a previous defect or not, because they'll start looking all the same, which is why it's very important for us to analyze that green coffee the way that we do. Okay, so I'm also gonna show you guys. I'm looking at the image here, the table that we use internally whenever it's in a little Excel sheet that we use to test out our coffee, and you guys have a better idea on how we analyze these coffee samples. Anyways, going back to the roasted coffee, once it is roasted, we place it into this guy again, as I said earlier, because we want to test out the before and after in terms of the weight and how much mass has been lost during that roasting process. And once a few days have passed and we want to try that coffee, those days serve for it to be degassing that CO2 and get to that peak flavor. Depending on the coffee, it could be after 3 days, 8 days, 10 days, 15 days. We'll test that out. Typically around 5-day mark, we'll go ahead and grab that freshly roasted coffee. We'll grind it and we'll put it in here for our coffee cupping. Now, the coffee cupping is the most raw, most precise way of testing or tasting coffee. So we'll add about 30, maybe 50 grams of coffee and add however much the ratio of water is to that amount. And we'll use these 2 spoons, we'll swirl it around, and we'll start testing and tasting that coffee. We'll also smell that coffee, and at the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure it's good coffee or bad coffee. Because if we want it to be specialty coffee, it needs to taste amazing, it needs to be complex. And the information that we gather from that coffee tasting is essential to the coffee bag and the information that we put on that coffee bag. If it is a coffee from Ethiopia, which is a generally high altitude coffee, 2,000 meters above sea level, for example, we expect a little bit of citrus, a little bit of mild acidity in that coffee. And we expect to taste that, especially if it's a wash process, which is generally the case with Ethiopia. We'll taste that and, okay, it has fruitiness, it has citrus, it has a little bit of lemony taste, complexity, and all those notes is what we put in our bag, written down at the top of the coffee bag. So whenever you look at the coffee bag from us, everything is written down because each coffee is different. So for example, this coffee tasting notes, it's like citrus, cacao, and green apple. And that's what we managed to taste from that coffee that we have here, which is our Cosmos blend. But now you get an idea. Now, let's say the whole process passed with flying colors. That's when we proceed to place an order to the coffee estate. Hey guys, out of the 3 samples, we only like the first one, coffee A. So we'd like to place an order of that coffee. So they'll send us a coffee bag, a large order, 50 kilos, 100 kilos, whatever we place the order on. But we also have to sign a contract, because unless we already know how that coffee estate works and we already trust them, some coffee estates will send you an amazing coffee in the sample, and then they'll send you very bad quality coffee once you place a large order. So we sign a contract and say, hey, we're going to test the coffee again, and it better match up to all these standards and all the tastings that we did in the moisture level that we had before. And that is part of the whole process. Once we get that large order, we grab 350 grams and we do the whole thing over again, and it better match up to that initial order. The only difference that we'll have between one and the other is the size, because we'll specifically ask for them to give us the size that was predominant in the coffee seed. So once we have that and we check that the coffee that we received the second time meets that criteria and everything as well, that is when we place it into our website for online orders. And every time we receive an order, it is roast to order. So essentially means each and every single order is freshly roasted. That's it. So very summarized overview of what goes behind the scenes here at Syzygy Coffee in each and every single bag that we have. It is what sort of differentiates us from other coffee roasters. I unfortunately know of many brands that call themselves specialty coffee that do not follow these guidelines. And except for the UV light, if you are calling yourself a specialty coffee roaster, you should be and actually need to be doing all of these things to make sure that your coffee is considered a specialty. If you're not, then unfortunately, you're not drinking specialty coffee. And I say unfortunately because there's no standard or no regulation or no stamp saying that a coffee is or not specialty. But that's the way it is. The only way for you guys to try out coffee is to try out and see if a coffee is in fact specialty is by trying it out. And again, the whole idea with this type of video is to tell you guys a little bit more of what goes behind specialty coffee roasting, understanding the whole process behind each coffee bag. We put a lot of work into it, a lot of love into it. It is our passion, and hopefully we're able to showcase that passion through each and every single bag of Syzygy that we sell to you guys. Nothing else to add. Hope you guys try it, and be sure to stick around. I'm going to be adding more of these types of videos sort of behind the scenes, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter, and of course here on YouTube for more of these types of videos. Subscribe, hit a like, helps us a lot, motivates us. Every time we see a subscriber pop up, we just want to make more and more videos, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you want to see a certain type of video, let us know below in the comments. I check every single one of the comments, I promise. And who knows, maybe you guys can give me an idea of something very interesting to make. Is it a recipe? Is it going to deep dive into one of these things? Whatever it may be, let me know, comment below. Thank you guys. Pedro with Syzygy. Talk to you soon.